What's up, everybody? Back to another episode of the Uce Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Moafanua.
And I'm Ili.
And today's episode is brought to you by yours truly, Riverside FM. Go ahead and copy one, man. We are not sponsored by them, but we do have an affiliate link. So anything that you download from Riverside using our link below, you see that one right there for those that are tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook. Get yours. Use that link right there. And if you're new to this channel, welcome to the Uce Podcast, where we talk about trending topic that's going on in the U.S. specifically, of course, around the world. And also, we like to invite entrepreneurs, small content creators, and just the average Joe to come on the platform and just ask them their why. What makes them do what they do. But today, I want to go ahead and bring up this whole conversation about tariff, because it seems like the world is concerned about it.
Going on. Yes.
And why do we say that the world is concerned about it? Yes, it is, because for those that's been ripping our butthole off from the U.S. by taxing us the shit out of us, well, this is us, giving it back to y'all. To you got to even the playing field. That's where I'm at with this one. It's supposed to be a non-biased podcast, but today's episode, I'm more leaning towards fuck that. The tariff is a good thing. I don't know about Ili. Hopefully she's against it. That way we keep the platform neutral. Anyways, where you at with that stance, cuz? How you feel about this whole thing with the tariff?
Quite honestly, it's I'm like 50-50. Because I get what a lot of people are upset, saying it's causing the stock markets to crash. This war is ridiculous. It's costing us consumers high price gas, high price eggs. Keep talking about the eggs, high price everything. Everything's priced overpriced right now because of the tariffs. But as the tariff war continues, that's what they're calling the tariff war. It's basically taking the stance on for the years of charging the United States of America a lot percentage for the products here to be sent out to other countries. The U.S. has always been charged so much. And now, I guess this administration is finally taking the stance, and a lot of people think he's crazy as hell for doing it. So I'm in the middle of this. I'm just writing it out, see how it goes, see if it actually works. What Trump is talking about, this whole tariff thing. Even though I don't agree with a lot of what the man says, but hey, it could be it could be a bad thing. Especially, like I said earlier, the prices, the percentage that the U.S. was being charged from other countries, and now they're standing on toe to toe, going back and forth, and America's giving it back to them, saying, "Hey, you charge us this, we're going to charge you this, unless we can sit here and negotiate some good percentages." So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. So, I'm more in tune because you're the one who brought it to my attention. I know the video I think you're going to share. I would like it's very broken down easily, and I see where you're standing. So, but it could go left or right. We'll see.
In America, where we belong. Join the journey, let's pass the time with culture, dreams, and hearts that climb from American Samoa shore to America, we're so much more.
Shout out to this dude named Josh, man, because we're going to go ahead and break it down, share this video, and then we're going to cover it.
First off, break away from this slave master mentality that everybody's got to be fucking equal. Because what you're going down the road of socialism. I know what you're playing. I know, I can smell a socialist when I hear one, right? And understand, socialism is nothing but slavery. That's it. Let me give you some points here. First off, let's go with something more anecdotal so you can maybe understand this. There is no socialist country on the planet right now that doesn't need capitalism to sustain its government. That's a fact. And the ones that go full bore socialism destroy their people. Take a look at Venezuela. Venezuela, not that long ago, 20 years ago, was the second biggest economy on the southern hemisphere. They were in the top 10. Did you know that? Do you know where they are now? They are below poverty status. They have went from a ultra developed nation, part of like the G8, right, down to a developing status. That's because of socialism. The United States of America is the only country where you can actually practice socialism. Did you know that? Proof? The Amish. You can live like a socialist if you want to. No one's stopping you. But you can never live like a capitalist in a socialist country. Why? Because there always has to be a slave master in order to create order in socialism. Now, let's look at this phrase, this here. You just literally explained. No, I didn't explain capitalism. What I showed you was greed. Yeah, I showed you greed. An old saying goes like this. The problem with capitalism are capitalists. Greed. The problem with socialism is socialism, the system. Now, today's economy in the United States is not 100% capitalism, believe it or not. It's actually capitalism injected with a bit of socialism. Allow me to explain. When they created the Federal Reserve, they took the sovereignty of the nation's money, capital, and took it away from you and I. It's now being controlled by a handful of people. And the people that created the Federal Reserve were literally a handful of rich bankers. Going forward, there was no income tax in the United States until they started to implement the income tax. Why? Well, because these rich corporations, along with the Fed, thought it would be better monetary policy to spread the wealth around the world, you see, right? But they had a conundrum. If they did that, where would the revenue come from? Let's just tax the fucking citizenry. Socialism. And every time more and more socialism creeps into a capitalist country or economy, the more and more it consolidates power with the very few, which is happening now. You see, socialism consolidates power to the top, and everyone below it is the same. There is no class. As a matter of fact, in socialism, there is no upward mobility. None. You can't be rich in a socialist country. You're either power or service. That's it. In capitalism, you can move from poverty to upper middle class to wealthy. How do I know this? I was born of the fucking projects. Now, what today's capitalism is doing with all these socialist fucking injections like the Fed, the tax system, right? Regulations. All of these things are preventing you to move up more freely. When you tax a corporation, do you know who is cheering the most for taxing the corporations? The corporation. Why would you think that? Well, if the left got what they wanted and started taxing every single corporation, that would prevent you from moving up. It's a surefire way of keeping the poor poor. Because with that taxation on corporation, that prevents you from breaking the ceiling and going up the ladder. While these mega corporations, you name them, Walmart, Starbucks, Amazon, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, they can take that large tax on their corporation because after all, they're just going to give it to you anyway. You see, corporations, corporate taxes are an immediate trickle down to the consumer. Immediate. Unlike tariffs. But let's not get sidetracked with that. Notice the members of Congress that are into socialism. Let's take good old Bernie fucking Sanders. Here's a man who's a multi-millionaire. In his youth, he has never had a job. As a matter of fact, if you look at his resume, go anywhere, Wikipedia, whatever, he's never had a job. How does a man that's never had a job and for his own professional career was just a community organizer, a loudmouth, gets elected into the Senate, okay, House, then Senate, and his argument, wherever he is asked, how did you get your millions? You know what he says? I wrote a couple books. Really? Wow. Unbelievable. His net worth is almost as much as J.K. Rowling. And this woman has wrote a lot of fucking books and has distributed those books worldwide and has made fucking movies. Yet, Bernie, you're going to tell me you wrote 2 fucking books and you're a millionaire? Yeah, okay. Okay. Get your head out of this echo chamber. Capitalism, the way it's supposed to be, okay, is real liberty. It's real liberty. Capitalism takes off the handcuffs between fair trade, good or service, freely exchanged for money, not forced because you have to in a socialist system. What I also find about people that love socialism, it's probably because you've been beaten economically over and over again and you find no hope in this system. And I understand that. But if you want to raise yourself up, you can't look and you can't think like a defeatist. There is nobody that I know that likes socialism that is optimistic. Every socialist is a defeatist. Every single one. Look, the only thing holding you back from upward mobility is not the system. Okay? The system is going to be the system. What's holding you back is knowing the system. Okay? And if you know the system, you can play the system. But if you don't want to play the system, well, then, yeah, you can sit on the sidelines and cry for socialism all day long.
I was supposed to play the tariff one, but this one right here, he does such a great point. So I like where we're starting off of. Then we will lead into the tariff because it is a mindset at the end of the day, the way I feel about it. It's once you understand the system, and if you want to play by the rules, you're gonna keep getting fucked. That's what I took from it, cuz like for real.
No, that's
You know,
exactly what he said. He broke
yeah.
it down, socialist and capitalist, and in a nutshell, if you don't have knowledge of how things are work of the system, like he said, and then he's providing information, and you just got to go fact check him. And basically, if you don't know what's going on, you want to stay ignorant. Or some people they know what's going on, but still want to complain, don't want to do anything about it. That's all it is. Either play the game, what he says, or just shut the hell up and move aside and stop complaining. But like we know, dealing with a lot of folks, not everybody's like this, but people like to just complain about things, even if they know what he's talking about. But I love how he breaks it down, and
Mhm.
I've never seen this guy until you showed him. I mean, sent the tariff part to me. So this is the first time I've seen this video, and I'm just dying inside. Like, oh damn, he's just breaking it down. And I'm gonna go look on some stuff too, especially with Bernie Sanders. I didn't realize what he said, but he never held a job and claimed that he got his millions of 2 books and stuff.
That's
Very
how it
interesting
is.
things he mentioned. Yeah, but like you said, if you don't know the system, you don't know the game. Either you play or you don't play.
Yeah, and that can go with anything, even like this whole thing when there's so much things that it relates to. It relates to even like we talked about on our last episode when it came to union. When people are trying to when the company's trying to stop employees to unify to bring a union to the company, they can do whatever they want to do, and just from what I'm looking at, it looks like we're going to end up getting the majority to say yes to the union. And it's one of them things. It's like you cannot tell people, to believe in the vision that they're trying to bring out when something that's been going on for ages has been where people are witnessing, especially middle class and poor people witnessing these stuff. And it goes again to where Donald Trump won, because you know the story. For those that have been staying close to paying attention to this, is why he won is people were just tired of the BS. Now, going back to tariff, the ones that are really concerned about it, it's not middle class or lower class. The main news can always portray, oh man, this is such a bad move. And if you notice, the only one that are panicking are corporations, and they're going to break it down. I got a few other videos that I want to share, and we're going to go back to Josh and have that video where he talks about why it's a beneficial to us, middle class and lower class, this tariff thing. And they play such a role to where if you don't see the bigger picture, meaning understanding the system and understand that there is a waiting game involved in it, because I'm going to kind of pivot left because, last year, actually for a couple of years now, the word entrepreneur has been like the new viral thing that's been going on. Heck, we're victims of it too, But so many people that have been on this journey have lost money, right? Because it's also another pool hole. Or if you honestly don't, I want to say honestly, if you're not in a business where you're actually having a problem that solve the problem for the customers, then you're not going to get nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And I know for me and you, that's what we came to realize. It's like, as podcasters, as we are working towards to make this eventually a financial freedom route to go to, we have to have a solution to a problem. So where am I going at with the whole thing about entrepreneur? People get confused with entrepreneur. It's people feel like, oh, I need to quit my day job in order to go full force into it. But thank God for me and you. And I really feel like even us being in our middle age in the 40s helped us realize, no, it's not a wise thing to do to just drop our 9 to 5 and go full force with our podcast and our media and whatever we have aligned in the future, because of us understanding somewhat of how the system is operated here in the US, at least. So that's shout out to this guy, man. There's a lot of things that he said that I was like, man, I've always felt that way. When I hear, maybe that's probably why I never stay tuned into the news, because I just felt like, who is this fools? Like, they're not in my shoes, they're not in my neighborhood going through these 9 to 5 or just helping the community out. But here they are trying to tell us this and that as far as how to run our life, And it was interesting, man. But yeah, let me get back right here. Go ahead, cousin.
I'm glad you brought that part up about the entrepreneurship part and keeping your 9 to 5. It's from experience. It's not like we're millionaires or anything, but it is about the product, and the product has to provide the product and service to the people. And we did come to a realization that, but we've been hearing this stuff, and we've been trying to find our niche and stuff. But the main thing is providing a solution, like you said earlier. And some people make it, because they have money in the bank
Yeah.
and they can quit their 9 to 5, so they're able to do that. But also knowing the game, it's delayed gratification. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a get rich quick type of ordeal. It's once in a year, a million of years is when you find that one golden ticket and you just get lucky, and then boom, you're good. But this 9 to 5 thing is crucial because you still need that income to support what you got going on. And then, if people want to go make loans and so forth. But, me and you I'm not saying playing safe, but we're just playing it smart because we've been talking to other entrepreneurs too. And we've been doing research, and, given that it's a podcast, that this is what we're going with, up and coming media stuff that we're doing, helping out small companies and so forth. But yeah, that's where tariffs does come back to the tariff thing. It's the big it's the corporations, because like I can't wait for you to show the video, but it's very important to know these things so you can make a wise decision, smart decisions on what your next play is. And I'm glad we're talking about this. And a lot of people want us to talk about entertainment, what's going on in the news, which is good, but what is that providing to our people? News is, like you said earlier, it's just a bunch of noise, and we trying to stay away from all that negative stuff, but like going straight to the sources and just doing other things to keep our mind set on our golden ticket, which is just moving forward and expect delayed gratification, know the game, and we just keep on trucking.
Heard everything under the sun on what these tariffs are doing to the stock market. But when Trump was asked today point blank about the stock market, he shrugged and smiled and said, it's working. Now, if you know, you know. Allow me to break this down. Revenues from the S&P 500 are 41% foreign-based. That's huge. So when you're looking at multinational companies that are going to be hit with this tariff, they're scrambling. Let's just take Nike, for example, because they're a huge multinational company. Nike stock is not doing well. Now, the only thing that the shareholders and the CEO of Nike are concerned about is obviously their stock. Now, if Nike was to stay competitive in the US market,
with these tariffs, do you really think they're going to increase their prices 25% to the consumer? That would be asinine. Why? Well, if they increase their prices to 25% to the consumer, people won't be buying Nikes nearly as much as they did. And if they don't buy Nikes as much as they did, with their stock value plummeting, they're screwed. So what will Nike do? First of all, they're not going to pass on all of the tariffs to the consumer. They will absorb a lot of these tariffs. Second, they can't avoid these tariffs. They have no choice but to bring that manufacturing back to the United States. Now, where's the evidence of this? Well, Ford is already doing this. So is Toyota. Ford is offering employee pricing to every car. Employee pricing is like 10 to 20% cheaper than the invoice pricing. Toyota right now is doing a massive social media campaign to let the consumer know which cars in their brand are made in the United States so they can sell more cars. You see, when you think like a corporation, you understand what's going on. Right now, a lot of this fear is coming from the countries to where these corporations have homes. These countries do not want these companies to move. The only way to hurt a mega corporation is to hit them in the pocket. Now, to the bleeding heart liberal, this should be good news because this is the best way to stick it to the corporations. Back to Nike. If you're a Nike and you're getting hit with 25% tariff and you still need to be competitive in the US market, the last thing you will do is raise your prices on these Air Jordans or any type of sneaker. If you did so, your stock would plummet even more. This was the only way to get the manufacturing back into the United States, and it's already happening. You see, the smart companies have already jumped ship and came to the US. Microsoft, Apple, Toyota, Honda, just to name a few. Hyundai, in my opinion, was the smartest of them all. During the first Trump term, when he was talking about tariffs, Hyundai already invested into a plant and it just opened. You see, the only way to get these corporations back into the United States is to punch them in the gut. And this is exactly what's happening with the stock market. The stock market is reflecting the punch to the gut to every single mega corporation that is operating in foreign lands but are registered in the United States. These companies have no choice but to come back to the United States. Otherwise, they will price themselves out of the market. So when I see the stock market tumbling as it is now, it's working.
My man Josh breaking it down as far as tariff goes, and the ones that are concerned, take it back. Not really corporation people, it's actually the countries worldwide who has been taken from us constantly. And I told you before, the reason why I do know that, and this is just my experience for those that don't know, I've been in Asia, all over Asia for 5 years. Yeah, just about 5 years. And that's one thing that I noticed. There's a whole bunch of Trump towers out there, especially in Korea. And I'm just like, damn, this dude got businesses international. Of course, you know how he has it in Russia and in the UK and worldwide. But why is Trump advocating or really putting it, like pushing this tariff thing issue through? My own personal opinion is the backlash and the disappointment and the no's that he got from all these countries. And as a business person, I can just see like, okay, so you are going to just keep denying and do wrong business with me? Maybe that's probably why the man even went to become president, to run in our own country, to be a president, to change the narrative. He figured it out, which to me is just like, man, that's, and those that do know about Donald Trump, This man has been so much let down that this guy had business wise. He landed a lot of businesses, but at the same time he also was not invited to the table of these high figure people that none of us really know about. Only the few in the world knows these people's names, you know? And the man has constantly been denied. I know for sure one time he tried for the NFL to get a team. They didn't invite him to the table. So he turned around and helped out Dana White by promoting his sports, and it's now where it's at with UFC. So obviously he invested a lot. He lost a lot of money. He got a lot of money from all his investments, you know? And this is where I see him, Trump, as people on the left say, oh, he's so selfish. He just thinks about himself. He thinks about the rich. No, what? I think he does think about himself and his own families. And I think that it was a power move that he had to do to become president of the U.S. to make these kind of changes to benefit himself too. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, being a guru in marketing, using us the people as like, yes, this, make America great again. That's where I'm at when it comes to that part. But when it comes to tariff America, even if the left ends up being correct, I honestly don't even think that us, the middle class or the lower class, will even have any worry about it anyways, because we've been the ones that's been put into this shithole from the beginning. We're going to survive. We're going to get through it. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at with that one, cuz.
It's an ongoing revolving door with everything that's going on. The Democrats been in office for a long time. So now you see a Republican who used to be Democrat back in the days. Yes, he had a lot of failure, I think bankruptcies within his company and business. That's what a lot of people are complaining about. They call him a criminal. I'm going to refrain from, my personal opinions, but I just want to put stuff that's been out there. Then he's doing this. He's the only president so far that's challenged these tariffs, because if this was going on forever, which we know it has, America has been charged from other countries a high percentage. And the US hasn't been charging other countries high percentage. And all of a sudden, a big drastic change of charging tariffs. You see recently 105% to China and other countries, and I think he put a pause on some. But the fact is, it's hitting their pockets, like Josh was saying. When you hit their pockets, they start scrambling, and these are the corporations. And if he says it doesn't affect us consumers, he gave a great example with the whole Nike ordeal. If the prices go up for those shoes, those who collect Nikes, those are sneaker collections. They'll probably still pay for it, but people who are not big on collections of Jordans or Air Force Ones, they're not going to pay for it. But there's more people who won't pay for it than those who collect. So it's hitting them in the pocket and making them move some of their companies back into the US, which creates more jobs and lower the prices or make it fair for our consumers here. Were you going to show that other video, or are you just going to just these two videos? Because on the other video that you sent me, it was a great explanation of how he broke it down. Um, the whole tariff thing. But this is the one that you showed that I didn't even see. That was a good one too. But the fact is that it is being shooken up by Trump. That everyone is supposedly all chaotic. They're just raising concerns and just stressed out. Is because no one has ever shooken a tree like this when it comes to tariffs. So now people are paying attention, and everyone's saying, you had the Democrats, they've been in control. They had the House and the Senate for the past, was it two elections and so forth. But now that things are moving and shaking the way it's never been seen on the tariff part I'm talking specifically about, it's going to cost a lot of conversations and high anxieties from everybody. But we'll see where it goes. And if it's working, it's working. I follow the stock market. I'm watching it, and a lot of people are just playing the waiting game. There's a lot of people who have their 401k, they got it in different funds. So they're just watching it. They lost some money, but they also know that you have to hold the line when it comes to these things. You just don't want to move it around and lose out on it. Or people, when they see the stocks go down, they start selling it. But then in 6 months, or maybe in 3 months, or maybe within a week, the stocks go back up with things happening. So things have to get bad before it gets worse. And I think that's where they're at right now. But we'll see where it goes, cuz I mean, this is a great topic we're talking about cuz a lot of people are worried and some are not if they understand it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did wanted to bring up is like I said, I was in Korea, like South Korea, for example. I was there for about a little over almost 5 years. And what one thing I did notice, and there is going to be a different video that I'm gonna play because I wanted to find a content where it's an average Joe that's speaking on this. Then I also want to find somebody with credentials. So I'll play that in just a little bit. But just to sum it all up, even in South Korea, they were just, when it came to American products, the prices were very expensive. Man, that prices were very expensive. Even cereal boxes, desserts. I mean, just you name it, snacks, clothing brands, all that stuff. Cars were outrageous. Where it's not that South Koreans could not purchase them; it was just too much of a ridiculous amount of money that they would have to pay for. But they would then turn around and have so much South Korean product to sell to the consumers of South Korea. And I've always looked at it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of messed up. Especially when it comes to cars. I've never heard of those kind of cars before. You barely see an American vehicle out there. And I'm just like, fast forward to now. This is back in, I got home back in 2019. And to see in this bigger scope what's going on, I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. All these countries been fucking us up. I don't know who started. I think our country might have started the whole tariff thing, but then it kind of backfired on us. Why did these past people who were in seat have these other countries take advantage of us? And a lot of the media, social media folks are all talking about like they were in it for themselves. That's why, another thing that us as the people need to really voice is there's so many of them that's the senators that's been in the seats for so long. Like, why are they there such long term? Why aren't they having the same issues, same thing when it comes to presidents, where you're just there in the term and then it's somebody else to keep it going, to stop this whole thing? Because once you're in the seat and somewhere in the government, don't you stay there till you retire? Cause you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Because Congress and they make the law, so of course they're not going to pass a law where it's going to limit their service there at the House or the Senate. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people, the American people want to bring up that type of bill, but they are not going to bring up that bill. It's going to take a special someone or a brand new congressman or congresswoman who sits in that seat to bring that bill. It's going to be dead on arrival because if you're in now, you get the feel of that control because you are the lawmakers. So there's checks and balances out there, but they can give themselves raises, but they won't get them limit the terms, because a lot of people are questioning now because you see a lot of senators and congressmen are like in their 80s that need to just go ahead and retire. I'm all about you should have a limit, to serve up there, just like the president. 2 terms, you're done. Get new faces out there. And so that's why this kind of stuff goes under the radar because it's buried. And then when you have people bring it up to life and bring light to it, and then all of a sudden, the narrative is, that person is selfish, that person's all about itself, the corporate America, so forth. But you've been in office for a long time. You could have stopped this. So that's a lot
Yeah.
of question that's going on right now. There's some stuff I agree and there's some stuff I don't. I mean, I'm not either party. You can call me an independent or whatever, but what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. So right now there's a tug of war going on. They're trying to people are trying to control the narrative who are in power right now. But as we live in and seeing your experience in Korea, South Korea, how you're saying it, we're here in America too. You all know there's the Dollar Tree stores and everything, and they're all imported from China, Taiwan, and they're cheap
Hmm.
as hell. Just like right now with Temu and stuff. But the reason why they're cheap because there was no tariff, or if it were, it's like small percentage or whatever. But we were able to buy things for cheap, maybe 20 cents on the dollar, and then you come here sell it for $1. But that's soon to change if this tariff war keep going on, and then the tariff that was charged to the United States from other countries was up there. That's why things in Korea were expensive, and then when people from Korea they visit the U.S., guess what they buy? They buy U.S. made stuff because they can afford it here. but they wouldn't dare buy it in their own country when it's there, the food, the clothing, and so forth, because the prices are really high. So that's why when they come to the States, because I noticed that, when I have a friend, she always goes back to the Philippines every year, and when she goes, she buys up a lot of stuff from here, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of stuff. She's like, oh no, because it's cheaper here, and the price. And I said, oh, okay. Every year, spend almost $1,000 on taking a whole bunch of stuff, made in America, to give to the family. Things that they want from here. The cereal bars and all that. The food made the USA America made stuff here. So yeah, when you start being educated by people, because that's what a lot of folks don't like TikTok, because TikTok is a platform now where you have average Joe. We see people like us talking about these things where you never see it in the past. Like Josh said, he grew up in the ghetto. We grew up in the ghetto, so it's like, okay, we already
Yeah.
resonate with this guy when he's speaking. So that made me tune into when you sent it. But it's just being educated, and it's not like everything they say is true or whatever. But you got to fact check. But it start making sense. And the question always is, why do we're still taxing people? Especially if we know that tax was to help with the war, and the war ended a long time ago, during World War II and so
Exactly.
forth. But you're still taxing. Why? Because that Federal Reserve was created. And that's another topic I would like to talk on, because the Federal Reserve, who are the people now? They're not being talked about a lot right now, because to me, they're the own mobster. They're the ones who's controlling the money here in the US. And that's why the dollar has become almost irrelevant. So, because we keep printing so much damn money. But that's a whole nother topic. Just look around what's going on.
So we're
Look
gonna
around.
go ahead and play the next video, and then we'll end it off of this one, because this is the whole Andrew Schultz one that he has for Flagrant, and he
Okay.
brings up a guy named Shamath, who used to be one of Golden State Warriors' owner.
Hello, everybody. The stock market is nosediving faster than Conor McGregor at a Colombian cookout. People are concerned, anxious, terrified. So we've asked someone to come on the podcast to calm your nerves, put you at ease. No, not her. We've asked our richest friend, Chamath Pineapple Porta Potty Platypus, the former owner of the Warriors, one of the earliest hires at Facebook, a legit billionaire, and the host of the biggest business podcast in the world, All In. If he would take some time away from surfing on the top of a train to explain why the stock market looks like Saxon Ratliff the morning after a sibling stroke off. We're going to find out the real end game for Trump's tariffs, what happens if they don't work, and why we might already be in a recession. Indulge in this bonus Flagrant episode. Why don't we just start at the tariffs in general? What exactly is Trump doing? What is best case scenario? What is worst case scenario? And then what are your personal thoughts?
Let's look at your Air Force Ones or your Dunks that you guys are wearing there, or your Converse.
Jordan.
Those things are made, or Jordans. Those things are made outside of the United States, even though the company that makes them is an American company. And what happens is they're made over there, and then they're shipped to the United States, and then they're sold to you guys somehow, right? And you would think that that's all fine and good, because you're like, well, hold on, this is an American company, I'm supporting an American company. And it turns out that the details are a little bit more complicated than that. So starting in about the year 2000, what happened was everybody thought that the right thing to do was to push every country in the world to this form of capitalism.
Then what about the moment when you actually realize that you're not here by accident?
And they looked at countries like China, and they were like, how do we make China more capitalist? And you would say, well, why would we do that? And the governing logic at the time was, if they're more capitalist, they'll also become more democratic. If they are more democratic, they are more predictable the way that we normally think about countries. So let's not repeat a Cold War. Let's not repeat maybe some other political regime in the 40s or 50s or 60s. And so what happened was we let China into the WTO, the World Trade Organization. And what that allowed corporations to do is basically an enormous form of arbitrage. So let's say that those Jordans were made in the United States and you were paying a worker $25 an hour to work on a line to make that shoe. And then you would send it to Foot Locker and sell it. I'm just being very simple just to kind of explain this example. But now, instead of having to pay sort of any typical form of taxes, Nike, after the year 2000, was able to ask the question, where else could I make this Jordan? And the Chinese raised their hand and they said, hey guys, we have these really great factories. We have extremely good workers, and we can do it for much cheaper than $25 an hour. And so what does Nike do? They send the job over there. Take that one narrow example and apply it across every industry you can imagine, from shoes to iPhones and everything in between. And what has essentially happened over the last 25 years is we have hollowed out an enormous part of the middle class economy in the United States. And we've explained it away by saying, hey, we don't want to do that kind of work. Instead, we're going to, like all of us, like we'll do a podcast, or, somebody will be a consultant. Like you'll just go up the stack, right? They'll say up the stack. And so over the last 25 years, that's been happening. And all of these other countries have benefited from America's largesse. And the reason you can say that is we are the big buyer of record for everything, right? We have the largest economy. The way our economy works is we are all buying shit, all kinds of shit, all manner of it, from that water bottle to that shirt to that hat. 80% of our economy is just consumers buying stuff. And the rest of the world makes an enormous amount of money by feeding that beast. And so you would say, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Now the cost of Jordans is much cheaper. The cost of that, those jeans are cheaper. Life is good. Except it's not, it's more complicated than that, which is then when we turn around and we try to sell our product into those same countries, instead of it being allowed to just come in so that, I'll make an example. Let's say that hat is made in the United States and we want to sell it to somebody in Cambodia or Vietnam. The same way that those dunks enter the United States with no tax, we would expect that hat can go into Cambodia and Vietnam with no tax, but that turns out to not be the case.
And why is that? Are they trying to protect local businesses?
It's a great question. I think that for every country, the answer to that question is different, but it typically starts with how can we generate revenue for ourselves? I don't think they have a competitive, New York Yankees hat manufacturer in Vietnam, for the record, but it's just a policy that allows them to make money off of the United States in two ways, right? They make money by making stuff there, sending it to here where we all buy it, and the dollars go back. And then they make money in a different way, which is whenever we try to sell our products there, they can tax it on the way in.
And then why would we tolerate that?
I think what the logic was back to what I said earlier. There was this thought that America is doing really well. We can allow a little bit of this leakage because of the quote unquote greater good, the greater good being, let's get these countries out of poverty. Let's get them, embracing capitalism, democracy. I think it's a combination of benevolence as well as there was some strategic rationale. Sometimes you could make a claim that allowing these countries to profit was like a national security thing, right? Like, hey, they'll be there for us if, we ever get into a spat with XYZ other countries. So there was a whole host of complex reasons, but the net result, Andrew, was that this dynamic was happening. But it had been happening for a long time.
No, I just stopped it because you know how it is. We still don't know how the whole disclaimer stuff goes, and we'll get flagged when we post our stuff. But I just wanted to give a few minutes to our viewers to help understand where we are at of our understanding with tariff. No, I didn't stop recording. But we're still recording. I was able to
Sorry.
figure out. I stopped doing the whole recording on the sharing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so there you have it. There you have it, listeners. I mean, to each its own. Y'all figured that part out, man. That was just
Yep.
two concepts of you have a regular Joe and then you have a billionaire talking about the same thing, understanding the whole point of this tariff and why the Trump administrative is pushing this issue to help. Of course, as we all know, we are already in debt. So is a whole bunch of other countries. But yeah, shout out to the Flagrant Podcast. Check them out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'll post them on our stuff below too of that particular one. And I'll also drop out a shout out to Josh himself. So that way, because the disclaimer is, guys, we don't own none of those content. I just feel like it's always good to hear from somebody else's mouth of how things are being said and where we're at. But yeah, just to end this part, where are you feeling at after this conversation, cousin? I know you say you're still 50-50 with it, with the whole tariff. Where you at with this, man?
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you shared this video and just understanding the concept Josh talked about, and then with these guys, and it's going. If I stick to what they're saying, it's going to work out for at the end. You just got to wait till the results come in. So I'm just excited to see where it goes, and it's basically a waiting game. You're just gonna have to see where it goes, especially when he talked about, when Nike asked that question, where else can I make, do this product for you? And we knew that. That's why they moved. I remember them moving outside the country to produce these shoes. Because remember back in the days, they were like, "Oh, children are making these shoes," so forth. There was a campaign back in the days about it, but yeah, so it's forcing them to come back and bring the jobs back here, and so it's going to be a good ride. We'll just sit and wait, and I'm just in here for the long haul and see how it goes. And as for the stocks too, like they're talking about, people are basically saying, try not to stress about it. Just we're gonna have to wait and see how this plays out.
Yeah, so the waiting game, that's the one thing about all the other countries. That is one upper hand that a lot of these countries has on us. And the reason why I say that, I'm just going to go back to my time in South Korea. Even management was getting, after they're only there for a few years. And the Koreans that worked with me, because I was actually one of the lead guys, he's like, Ken, I was like, are you guys not worried or stressing off with the new changes? They're like, we just got to put up with it. After 2 years, we're going to have somebody new come in. It's going to be another thing. They're going to rotate out, and we're always going to be here for the next 20 years. That mentality, guys, is the only downfall that we have. Why? Because as you guys know, who all live here in the U.S., it changes every 4 years. And if our government cannot work together to stick to this plan to help better our economy, it's going to be a roller coaster ride all over again. So, you know what I mean? That's what I wanted to say about that waiting game. That's the downfall of it, is that the world knows that. They just got to withstand this for the next year and a half or 2 years, however long Trump is. And all us Americans can hope for is that somebody picks up the baton and carries it through. The same can be said too with Biden's administrative that just left. Donald Trump could have just carried the torch and pushed his plans through, even if he disagreed. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that all these guys are right or wrong. I'm just saying, from my own personal opinion, that's where the issue is at, is that we keep having people change. We have this change. It's not like every other country. That's why the UK's like that. They have a queen or a king. However that person stays alive, that's how the monarchy is going to go, or that's how they're going to run. But then we also see the ripple effect on that end of when you have somebody that's been sitting in the same position that won't change their mindset to or broaden it. You know what I mean? So there is no right, there is no wrong. You know what I mean? To each its own. And then you said something about the stock. I also realized that majority, I want to say 80% of the stock owners are the rich people. 40% is us, the consumers. So if it plummets, it's not going to affect us because all we're doing is trying to invest. Well, that's actually their real money that they put in there. You know what I'm saying? So, yep, the waiting game, cousin. That's all I got for us today, man.
That's perfect. That's a good way to end it. So, it's really up to you all.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to wait? Because I believe in the waiting game, with things, 4 years in, 4 years out. Just like at work, you got new bosses come, There you go. You're going to be there in the long term. So that's a mentality I've always had. So I understand what they're saying, what you just said.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to end it like that because you said it perfect. There's no need to move on, but we could just go end it with our little motivational thing. And but that's all I have. What we have. But thanks for listening to Topic Up. Now today, after everything we're talking about right now, here's what we got. Do not live to satisfy the expectations of others. That's from Ichiro Kishimi. In and out.
Is that the dude from the Mariners?
Ichiro. Yes, Ichiro. I
Yeah.
said his name wrong. I apologize.
Ichiro. Okay. And this week's highlight, man, did you know that Charlene Lewis has got a podcast? She's on her second episode, man. Check it out. Shout out to you, Charlene, as you continue your entrepreneur journey and educating us on real estate, helping us understand that. So I'm pretty excited. I checked out a little bit of your first episode. Looking forward to get informed with real estate. Who knows? Sometime in the future, Uce might be out there to purchase some property out there in the Northwest. So shout out to you, Charlene Lewis, a Lost Samoan. Yes. And I'm Kenny Moafanua.
And I'm Ili.
And we out, yo.
Powered by Riverside.
I should have just waited and then just go with it afterwards.
All good.
Yeah, fine.